Good evening. I call to order the Lake Havasu City Regular Council meeting on Tuesday, November 12th at 6 p.m. We'll now have an invocation by Pastor Dean Wiles from Abundance Grace Church, followed by a Pledge of Allegiance led by the Havasu Freedom Foundation. Pastor Wiles, if you could just turn the microphone on in the center. It's the center of that. Yes, perfect.
All right. God, you are so awesome, and we just thank you for this time we could be together. God, thanks for this city and all the things that you're doing in it. We thank you for our city council. God, we thank you for all of our first responders. And God, we pray your protection over all of them, even right now. God, if they're in a dangerous situation, we just pray that you would give them insight on how to handle the situation. Give each one wisdom. God, continue to give our city council wisdom with all the different decisions that they have to make. And God, again, we know you want to flourish this city even more than we do. And we just want you to know we love you. We thank you. Keep your hand upon Lake Havasu. And continue just to bless each family represented. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thanks.
Lead the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
We've been asked, given permission to say a few words about the Havasu Freedom Foundation, and we thank you very much for the invitation. We also, the two chiefs of police and the fire department volunteered to sing the first verse of the Marine Corps hymn, but it wasn't on the agenda, so we're gonna take a pass on that. First of all, the Havasu Freedom Foundation is about 10 years old, and it was started as the Freedom Walkway going to the Freedom Bridge and the Freedom Park. And there was a lapse after the first year or two, and it got a little quiet. About a year ago in November, this month, I had a call from a Radio Central personality, Tracy Jones from Radio Central, said, we'd like to get together with you, Gary Myers and I would like to meet with you and see if we can't reinvigorate the walkway program. And we got together and we did. And our first endeavor was a campaign for the 29 original Navajo code talkers who were U.S. Marines. And we had a very successful outing on June 8th. The mayor gave us a very nice proclamation for the event. And so we went onwards and upwards. And the current event, which just ended November 1st, was first responders. And if you look at the board here, it was a first responder or loved one. And what we do is we ask the community to subscribe to these memorialized pavers. There are 4 varieties available. Stop at the swap meet at our booth, and we'll show you what is available. But basically what it's all about is, kindness matters. That's why many of you are here tonight. The walkway is a kindness matter issues. If you walk along the walkway, you see a lot of love you dad, love you grandpa, thank you for your service, those kinds of nice memorializing of those pavers if you just take a walk down there. Also, there are 76 Moments of Freedom pavers, and there's going to be a dedication on January 18th of the first responders pavers that will be installed, thanks to the city's cooperation, putting those pavers in for us, and the city allowing us to go forward. We have a good board. 3 of our members are here, standing in the doorway on the knee walker. There's Tracy Jones, and she broke her foot, and she was supposed to stay home tonight, keep the foot elevated, but she could not take a pass on listen to us talk about the event this evening. Behind me is Todd Baldwin. He's on our board. Also, Tom Kutchner is on our board. We also have any students here involved with PACE, teachers or students heard of the PACE program, Patriotic Americans for Constitutional Education in your schools. If not, you will be hearing about that program, and Diane Klostermeyer is also on our board. We hope that Chief Doyle and Chief Davis can join us on January 18th. We all know and regret to see Chief Davis leave us for bigger and brighter horizons, but we're going to ask him to come back and be part of the ceremony as we dedicate the first responder section on January 18th. Hopefully he can make it. Tracy, thank you again for getting us, our Marine Corps League, involved with the foundation. It's an excellent opportunity for us to serve the community in another way, and we're delighted to be part of the program. Thank you very, very much. I'd like to say a word or two.
I just want to say that it's a really great program. As a veteran, we can't do enough for our fellow vets and active duty military. And if we can buy that brick, some of those proceeds, and it can help out. Also, it'll memorialize forever on the walkway your loved one, whether they served the military or supported the military. It's a great cause.
In conjunction with the Havasu Freedom Foundation and the London Bridge Rotary Club, this past Wednesday, we commemorated and honored 3 New York first responders and presented them with framed certificates. They each had an opportunity to talk about their experiences in New York. Anyway, we encourage you, if you've not been down to the walkway, to do so. It's a beautiful area, starting right at the bridge and traveling north right along the channel. Please do so. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all the work you do for our community. All right, the next item on the agenda is our roll call. The city clerk will please call the roll.
Council members Cal Sheehy,
Here.
David Lane,
Here.
Jenny Koch,
Here.
Gordon Grote,
Here.
Michelle Lynn,
Here.
Donna McCoy,
Here.
Jim Dolan.
Present.
Thank you. The next item is the call to the public. This is where citizens have the opportunity to address the city council in any matter within the jurisdiction of Lake Havasu City. You would just make your way up to the podium, state your name for the record. Your comments would be limited to 3 minutes. We encourage you, if you are here for an item that's on a public hearing, to wait till that time, because we can have a two-way conversation because it's agendized. Otherwise, you would just come up to the podium, state your name. There's a light indicator box. Green means you have time. Yellow means 1 minute remaining, and red means that your time is up. With that being said, would anyone like to address the city council at the call to the public? Seeing none, we'll close the call to the public. Item 6 is the consent agenda. Would any of our council members like to remove any of the items for separate discussion?
Mayor,
Yes.
motion?
Yes.
I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented. Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Koch and a second from Councilmember McCoy. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Item 7 is correspondence, communications, petitions, announcements, and the city manager report. Item 7.1 is the fiscal year 2018-19 fourth quarter contracted service agency reports. This is here to file for the record, unless anyone has any questions. No? All right, we'll move on to 7.2. Announce vacancies on the Lake Havasu City boards, committees, and commissions. Ms. Williams?
Mayor and City Council, there are a number of vacancies on Lake Havasu City boards, committees, and commissions. The following is a listing of those vacancies. Airport Advisory Board, 1 regular pilot member. Board of Adjustment, 3 regular members, 3 alternate members. There are also no vacancies currently on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, Planning and Zoning Commission, or Public Safety Personnel Retirement System, but anyone wishing to submit an application, it will be held on file for up to a year, and applications can be found on the city's website and also at City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 7.3 is the city manager's report. Mr. Knutson?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to start off this evening's manager's report with kudos to Chief Doyle and his staff. The Governor's Office of Highway Safety awarded our police department with a grant of $30,178 to be used to conduct increased traffic enforcement and purchase radar tracking equipment. Increased traffic enforcement reduces incidents of traffic fatalities and injuries resulting from speeding, aggressive driving, red light running, and other forms of risky driving behavior through enforcement, education, and public awareness, which makes our roads safer for all motorists. Mayor Sheehy, I'd like to read a letter that you received from two of our residents just a couple weeks ago. Dear Mayor Sheehy, we attended the Water and Sewer Facilities Tour on Friday, the 25th of October. The tour was led by Brianna Morgan, who's the city's water conservation specialist. She did an excellent job in educating us about our water and sewer system in the city. The tour was so interesting that we were excited to learn about where our water comes from, how it is pumped, stored, and distributed through our distribution system throughout the city. Kudos to the certified water operators that do such a good job ensuring that we are delivered safe drinking water, and the same for our sewer treatment plant operators and lab technicians that do a great job keeping the things flowing safely. We now appreciate what goes into producing and delivering safe, potable water to the visitors and residents of Lake Havasu City. Thank you so much for providing this educational tour. Signed, Greg and Lori Johnson. A lot has happened in the last 2 weeks. Mayor and council participated in 2 parades. On Sunday, October 26th, the City Council, myself, and the Havasu Youth Advisory Council participated in the London Bridge Days Parade. And just yesterday, on November 11th, council members participated in the Veterans Day Parade and attended the ceremony at Wheeler Park with Mayor Sheehy as one of the keynote speakers. 5 proclamations have been presented in the last 2 weeks. One to the Dementia Connection of Havasu for their 5th annual Move In for Memory Walk. One to the American Legion Auxiliary to celebrate American Legion Auxiliary Centennial Day. One to the Gem and Mineral Society to celebrate 50 years of amazing rocks. One to Rhoda Meyer to commemorate her 100th birthday milestone. And one to the Havasu Grieving Moms Group, honoring National Children's Memorial Day for those who have lost a child. During his spare time, Mayor Sheehy also stopped by the community garden at New Horizons and helped plant vegetables, presented a water conservation certificate to the Lake Havasu Marine Association for their efforts to supply trash bags along the lake for the boating community, and for their assistance with the map of the lake project, and also spoke with students at the Career Day at Thunderbolt Middle School. Mayor and council members also attended 2 ribbon cuttings for the grand opening of the Views and the grand opening of the new Comfy Cove room at Lakeview Terrace, a local memory care center. There's always something going on, including welcoming dignitaries to Lake Havasu City. Mayor Sheehy and Mayor Miles welcomed AZ Town Hall representatives, as well as representatives from First Things First and community members to the Mojave Community College in Lake Havasu City, where the group focused its efforts discussing strong families, thriving children. Vice Mayor Dave Lane, Councilmembers Grote, McCoy, and Lynn were also in attendance. Arizona State Treasurer Kimberly Yee visited Lake Havasu City and met with myself, Mayor Sheehy, and our Administrative Services Director, Jill Olson, to talk about some of our investment opportunities here in Lake Havasu City. Mayor Sheehy, Vice Mayor Lane, and Councilmember Koch, Lynn, and McCoy attended the Concerned Veterans of America with Congressman Gosar at the London Bridge Resort. And lastly, Mayor Sheehy, you met with Jack Garrett and Ken Noosh with the Shriners Club at their annual dinner. The public is invited to an open house to discuss the upcoming high-intensity activated crosswalk, otherwise known as a HAWK, pedestrian signal project for Acoma Boulevard North and Pima Drive. The public meeting is on Monday, November 18th. It'll be held from 5:30 to 7 o'clock, and it'll be at the Smoke Tree Elementary School. A HAWK, pictured here, is a pedestrian traffic signal used to stop traffic when pedestrians activate the light, so kids and pedestrians can safely cross the street. This is a project that's funded by the Highway Safety Improvement Grant at no cost to the city, and it's a project that will be administered by ADOT. So encourage the public to attend this meeting to learn more about this project. Again, that'll be at Acoma and Pima Drive. For more information, please contact Lake Havasu City Project Manager Jeff Herb at 680-5474. And in honor of Kindness Month, this November, Mayor Sheehy will present a proclamation. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for that. And if I could have the students from the Kindness Clubs come join me up here. Thank you for being here this evening. All right. So this evening we have students from Smoke Tree Elementary. Mrs. Hogar, the principal, is here with us this afternoon. We also have Mrs. Hellhart from Jamaica, and we have students from Jamaica Elementary School, and Mrs. Triasi from Starline. We have students from Starline as well. So we're so excited that you're here, and we're so excited about all the work you guys are doing in your schools to promote kindness. Kindness seems like it would be so easy, but sometimes we just have to have that reminder. So thank you for being here today so we can do that. So today we're going to read a proclamation, and we're going to proclaim November is Be Kind America Month. Whereas Lake Havasu Unified School District's Kindness Clubs undertook a year-long initiative to create a permanent positive change in themselves, their schools, and their community with small acts of kindness and compassion and respect. And whereas it takes strength, courage, and wisdom to practice and commit to the clear understanding of kindness, kindness should not be confused with politeness. It is more than opening doors and saying please and thank you. Politeness reveals little about internal goodness. Kindness on both the giving and receiving end touches our very core. And whereas annual national opinion polls show the overwhelming majority of individuals believe that the lack of civility is a serious issue that's getting worse. And whereas kindness is a force, without force that goes to the heart of how people respect, love, honor, communicate, and treat one another. Kindness is acting intentionally to extend good to other people. It's a state of mind and a way of life to be lived every day at home with family, friends, or in the community with strangers. And whereas in conjunction with World Kindness Day, November 13th, 2019, and acknowledging the efforts of our elementary schools' kindness clubs on creating a culture of kindness and compassion, it is important to the well-being and success of our city that we not only recognize the importance of kindness on this day, but in our day-to-day engagement and throughout the rest of the year as well. Now, therefore, I, Cal Sheehy, Mayor of Lake Havasu City, Arizona, do hereby proclaim the month of November 2019 as Be Kind America Month in Lake Havasu City, Arizona, and I urge all citizens to enjoy us, to encourage acts of kindness locally, to create their own acts of kindness, to pay it forward, and to match the magic and transformative power of kindness to ensure that our community is a safe place where everyone feels respected and valued. Thank you very much. I now would like to invite the principals to join us up here and also my colleagues on the council to come around and join us for a photo real quick. And then we're all going to get in and be really kind to each other. Yeah. Get really close. Yeah, get really close. We're going to fit everyone in. Yeah. What's that? Yes. Yeah, advisors? Yeah, advisors, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, thank you to the advisors.
Absolutely. Yes. Couldn't do this without them. It's like the parade process.
I know.
Someone say camera?
That's our smiling man.
All right. Again, thank you so much for what you guys are doing. We appreciate it. Thanks for being here. All right. Thank you for allowing us that opportunity to help spread kindness in Lake Havasu City. We'll now move on to item 8 on our agenda, which is public hearings. We'll start with 8.1, a Series 6 bar liquor license for the Lake Havasu Golf Club 2400 Clubhouse Drive. Ms. Williams.
Mayor and City Council, Andrea Dahlman-Lukowitz has applied for a Series 6 bar liquor license for Lake Havasu Golf Club, 2400 Clubhouse Drive. All posting requirements have been met, all fees have been paid, and no objections were received. The location is properly zoned for a liquor license.
Thank you. Do any members of the council have any questions for Ms. Williams? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion?
Yes.
I move to recommend that the Arizona Department of Liquor License and Control approve a Series 6 bar liquor license for Lake Havasu Golf Club, 2400 Clubhouse Drive.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Dolan and a second from Councilmember McCoy. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Item 8.2 is a Series 7 beer and wine liquor license for Finney's, 317 Lake Havasu Avenue South. Ms. Williams.
Mayor and City Council, Jennifer Lynn Wetton has applied for a Series 7 beer and wine bar liquor license for Finney's located at 317 Lake Havasu Avenue South. All posting requirements have been met, all fees have been paid, and no objections were received. The location is properly zoned for a liquor license.
Thank you. Do any members of council have any questions for Ms. Williams? All right, this also is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion?
Yes.
I move to recommend that the Arizona Department of Liquor Licenses and Control approve a Series number 7 beer and wine bar liquor license for Finney's, 317 Lake Havasu Avenue South.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Koch and a second from Vice Mayor Lane. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Item 8.3 is introduce ordinance number 19-1226, amending Lake Havasu City Code Section 5.20, vacation rentals. Ms. Gary.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As stated, this is an item to introduce an ordinance amending our city code regarding vacation rentals, or otherwise known as short-term rentals. Earlier this year, some new laws went into effect that amended the state laws regarding vacation rentals, and they give us some additional tools and enforcement mechanisms to address concerns that are being raised by citizens across the state. Therefore, now it's necessary to amend the city code to be able to implement and put into place these new tools. It's important to note that this vacation rentals is a matter of statewide concern, which means that it's been preempted by the state, which means that there's nothing further that the city can do to regulate vacation rentals other than what's allowed by the state statute. So although there are other things that people may want the city to do or we'd like to see, we're really limited by what the state allows us to do in this area. So we are implementing or suggesting to implement every possible mechanism that we can under the state law. And so you'll see that as we go forward with this introduction. Most significantly, the new law allows the city to require what we call a local contact person. And this can either be the owner or an owner's designee who is responsible to responding to complaints in a timely manner. We go through in the ordinance and define what we think means in a timely manner, which more specifically would be when a complaint is received, telephonic contact with the occupants within 30 minutes of each call for each incident, or in person if we're unable to reach telephonically within 45 minutes. And then if the local contact person must report then back to the city of how they handled the incident within 45 minutes of each call from the city. And then failure for that person to respond to calls or complaints would be a violation of the code, which has consequences. Moving on to the next most significant area. The city is required then to report any verified violations to the Department of Revenue. This kind of leads off into some additional tiered violations and fines that the person will have to pay. And we go through a little bit in the ordinance what those violations are. Specifically, if the person fails to obtain the transaction privilege tax license and to list that tax license number on each advertisement for their short-term rental, that is an offense of $250 for the first offense, and then $1,000 for any second and subsequent offenses. So that's specifically just for that violation of state statute. Then we get into violations of other areas of the state code, which may be something like nuisance or failure to have your local contact person report, or to provide the city with a local contact person, public safety, trash, those types of things. So for a first violation, it's going to be $500. For the second violation within a 12-month period, it's $1,000. And then for a third and any subsequent verified violation on the same property within that same 12-month period, it's either 50% of the gross monthly revenues for that month of the lodging accommodation in which the violation occurred, or $1,500, whichever is greater. These are the most significant changes that the state law went into effect earlier this year. City staff has met several times to discuss these changes and to implement how we're going to process them and how we're going to contact DOR, and start putting those processes together, as well as the forms that will need to be filled out moving forward. We're confident that we can be successful with these new tools, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have if you'd like to go into further detail on any of the changes.
Thank you. Yeah, do any of the council members have any questions? There's one additional provision, no party homes.
Yes.
So the state law doesn't allow any vacation rentals to be used, or short-term rentals to be used for weddings, event-type venues. So that's also
Yes.
in this ordinance.
It specifies that they may not be used for any special event that would otherwise require a permit or license.
Yeah, thank you. We've had several opportunities to have community outreach regarding this topic since we had an ordinance in 2016 that, when the state determined that this was going to be a statewide concern, made adjustments which made our ordinance not valid, which was working really great. It worked for all parties. It worked for folks that use short-term rentals. It worked for neighbors that are next to short-term rentals. It worked for property managers. It worked for everybody, but it didn't work for the state, I guess. And so we've been working really hard to be able to address these concerns from a local perspective. I had the opportunity to testify in front of an ad hoc committee that was put together by Senator Fan, who's the president of the state Senate, and Speaker Bowers, who's the Speaker of the House, and through the ad hoc committee to talk about some of the things that we're experiencing here and work with other communities on what is impacting their area. And like I said, like Havasu City had a great ordinance that worked really, really well. And as Ms. Gary explained, we're implementing these provisions, which are some of the things we had before, but we're missing like a good neighbor brochure, which was just it was a great opportunity. Which we've also reached out to the property managers group, and they'll help to still maybe create a best practices. So although it's not law, we can still have a best practices, so we can still protect our neighborhoods while we continue to advocate for local control. Vacation rentals have been in Lake Havasu forever, since we became a city, and we've always done a great job on our own. So it's unfortunate that the state is not giving us enough tools. Do any other council members have any questions before we open up the public hearing?
If I may, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just to get a better sense, you could probably explain this easily so everybody who's listening at home can understand as well. If you get a complaint and somebody can't get a hold of the individual or the designee within 30 minutes, that's like a $250 fine. Have we had any issues with that? And what does that look like if, say, for instance, somebody's phone isn't charged and they don't get a phone call for 30 minutes, maybe till the next morning or something like that? What kind of issues have we had with that?
We haven't,
while we had it?
group, we haven't had any issues because it's not currently something that we have in our process. So this will be something new that we'll implement, and we'll have to see how that goes. I mean, obviously, when they're approached by the police department and they're working with an officer, if something like you mentioned happens to come up, that's something that'll be explained and be taken into consideration.
Did you also mention there's another way of contacting the individual who's in charge of the vacation rental?
Well, what we've done, so what they have to do is when they come to the city and they register their local contact person, they'll provide the name and address and phone numbers for that person who we would contact in the event that a complaint came about for that property. What's defined in our code section is what we determine to be as far as like as a timely response. So for purposes of our chapter, the phrase "in a timely and appropriate manner" means that the local contact person makes telephonic contact with the occupants at the subject vacation rental within 30 minutes of a call for each incident. And then if they aren't able to reach them by telephone, then they have to make an in-person contact within 45 minutes. And then once they reach a resolution or they come to some disposition, they need to contact the city back and let the city know that they've reached the occupants, they have remedied the issue or have not remedied the issue, and then handle it from there.
Is there a time limitation, the amount of time it takes to contact the city, or would they be subject to any other fines in that basis? I'm just curious.
Well, it does say that they need to report back to the city of the disposition and handling of the reported incident within 45 minutes of each call from the city for each incident. So at the time that the city reaches out to the local contact person, they need to get back to the city within 45 minutes of that call and let us know what they've done.
And I can assume that that would mean they could contact the police, like if it was, these things wouldn't probably happen in the middle of the day, they'd likely happen at 2 a.m. type of deal.
Correct. And so the enforcement of this chapter is by the police department.
And then it goes right to $1,000 after the $250 fine, second and all subsequent events. Is that right?
No. So there's two different tiers of violations. So if you violate the state statute as far as you fail to get a tax license, then that is $250 for the first, and then that goes to, sorry, let me look at my notes here. So it's 200, yeah, it does jump to 1,000, but that's for violation of the state statute. So that's just if you fail to get your tax license and you fail to report it or place it on each advertisement, then yep, your first offense is $250. You fail to do that again, and it jumps to 1,000.
Can I ask, how do they handle advertisements that are in different states and advertisements that are in different countries?
I'm sorry, Councilman, I don't know. This
Yeah,
is
Ms.
all
Gary.
brand new, and so it really is only going to be for advertisements here in Arizona that this is going to be applicable to.
Yeah, so Mr. Groh, any time that somebody's going to place their home or unit up for rent on a short-term basis, state law requires that they have their TPT registration number on that advertisement. So if they're going to be selling within the state of Arizona, so someone's going to be renting a dwelling in the state of Arizona, that's a state requirement, and that's what we're following suit with this ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that explanation. I kind of understood all that. What I was asking was, is there any obligation for any advertisements that people who locally are renting their house as a vacation rental, if they're advertising in another state or in another country? And I think I heard your response was state law would not be applicable to interstate commerce or international commerce. Would that be correct, or am I wrong?
Well, what we're talking about here is if they are renting something here in Arizona, they must place that number on any advertisements that they are for the rental here in Arizona. But how that looks, I'm not sure yet. We haven't actually seen it in process yet because it hasn't been implemented.
Okay, and then can you run down the costs and penalties if they don't get a hold of somebody telephonically? I mean, here locally, not the transaction privilege tag, but just the somebody calls in a complaint at 2 a.m. and that person that is supposed to be contacted, let's say their phone's not charged and they're sleeping away. What does that look like? I mean, if you could just revisit that.
Okay, so what you're talking about is failure of the local contact person to respond to calls or complaints. So that would be a violation of the city code. If it reaches the stage of being a verified violation, which means it's finally adjudicated, then for the first offense, it's $500. For the second offense within a 12-month period, it's $1,000. For a third offense and any subsequent offense within that same 12-month period for that same property, it's 50% of the grossly monthly revenues for that month of the lodging accommodation in which the violation occurred, or $1,500, whichever is greater.
Thank you for that clarity.
Do any other members of the council have any questions for Ms. Gary? Vice Mayor Lane?
If I may, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It says that they have to be able to be contacted 30 minutes by telephone, 45 minutes in person, which the 45 minutes in person takes care of somebody that doesn't charge their phone. But is that contact by a representative of the city, i.e. the police department, or contact by one of the neighbors that is actually filing the complaint? And if it's by one of the neighbors, how do we verify that they actually did try for 30 minutes and they're not just saying, I've been trying for 2 hours?
Yeah, no. Okay, Vice Mayor Lane, here's how it works. So the city gets a complaint. XYZ residents, there's a noise complaint. We look it up, we find that it is a vacation rental. They have registered with us a local contact person. At that point, we contact that local contact person. That local contact person has 30 minutes in which to call the occupants of the short-term rental, the vacation rental, to remedy the issue. If they are unable to get a hold of the occupants within that 30 minutes, then in-person contact is required of that local contact person. Not the residents, not that local contact person must make contact then, and they have 45 minutes to make that contact and remedy the issue. Then they have to report back to the city, let us know they took care of it, they didn't take care of it, whatever the issue is. And then they have 45 minutes to do that as well.
Right, and I understand that.
Okay.
I was just clarifying.
Make sure we're clarifying.
No, I'm clear on it. I just want
Okay.
to make sure the public was clear on it, that they can't just call up and say, I've been trying to get a hold of them for 45 minutes.
Yes.
They're now in violation.
No.
No, we have to contact them.
Yes. So the city has the local contact information. It's different than our last program, so you kind of have to put that outside of your mind. This is the new program. The city receives the local contact person. The city will have to reach out to that local contact person and ask them to go and make contacts with the occupants of the short-term rental.
I had a question.
Yes.
So just to clarify, for example, with a noise complaint, if someone calls in for, typically now we would show up and do a meet reading and see how loud it is and all that. Now it would be flagged as a rental. We would make the phone, but the police wouldn't go out until after they called us back, or?
I don't know. I mean, Dan might have something on this. If somebody calls and there is a noise complaint, they're going to screen it and they're going to handle it how they feel most appropriately. If they
And
think,
I only ask because that seems to be the biggest complaint we get
Yes.
with these houses, that there's noise complaint
Yes.
after noise complaint
So,
after noise
I mean,
complaint.
the police
so.
department is the department that are charged for implementing this chapter. And so when they get the call, they're going to screen it and they're going to determine the best course of action. If it's a big deal, no, they're not going to call the local person. They're going to go and they're going to respond if they feel that that's necessary. If it's something that they can call the local contact person and they think they can get remedied, I'm sure that's what they're going to do. But I don't want to speak for the chief. So if he has a different course of action, he is certainly free to get up and explain. But again, this hasn't been implemented, so we haven't seen it in action yet.
Yeah. So, but if there is a violation, then there's still, if the police go and show up, yes, there's a violation, then we don't need to do the 30, 45 minutes if there's a clear violation.
Correct.
Okay.
Mayor Shi, if I can, Councilmember Dolan, I think what we're talking about here for the first time, that the city, through the state statutes, now has the ability to fine the property owner as opposed to reacting to the tenant. So the PD has the ability to cite the tenants if there's something that's getting out of hand or something illegal activity, or the noise is too great. But with this ordinance and the new state statute allows us to, through the PD and through our administrative services department, to contact that property owner and hold them accountable for. Basically, what we're trying to do here is look at repeat offenders. So we have, again, advertisements on these websites, where it's Airbnb or VRBO, where you have 18 to 2,000 square feet homes that are encouraging folks to bring 20, 30 of your friends and party throughout the night. That's obviously having a huge impact on the neighborhood. So for the first time, we're able to address these issues with the property owner as opposed to the tenant that comes in, new ones every weekend.
All of these questions are great, and we're really excited that we're getting some tools from the state. We're hoping that we'll continue to see more. It's not as great as what we think we had in place before. We're biased to that, but we're gonna take what we have and we're gonna make the very best of it and hope to see some really positive things come from it.
Councilmember Lynn?
Can you tell me who collects the fees? Is it the fees from the fines? Does the state keep it or does the city keep it?
If it's a state violation, so you fail to get your tax license, that's a state statute violation. Yeah, the other violations, now we went with the max of what the state prescribed, and so those are our violations, and we would keep that.
It's important to note on fines and fees, though, we don't really get all that money because the way it gets distributed. So it's not net money, which some people think that we get a lot of money, but to recoup the cost, it actually costs us money at times. So, any other questions before we open up the public hearing?
Sure, Mr. Mayor, I got another question.
Okay.
How did we come up with the numbers that we're looking at here? And when I ask this, I don't want to sound like I'm on the side of one group or the other, but people who are renting homes as a vacation rental, are obviously doing that as a business. Probably not all of them are renting for $2,000, $3,000, or $4,000 a weekend. Probably some of them are renting for a lot less than that, and you can't get a hold of somebody in 30 minutes. These are pretty significant fines. How did we come up with that number? Is that the maximum that we're allowed to charge by the new legislation that the state is, or did we have a discussion on that amongst our staff?
No, we pulled the numbers right from the statute.
Okay, so we pulled the numbers right from the statute.
Yes.
And then my next question was kind of related to the question that Councilor Lane was inquiring about, and that you kind of clarified, but I don't really see the language in here for me. That 45 minutes to be contacted in person. So you can't get a hold of somebody in 30 minutes. You got 45 minutes to get out there to that vacation rental. If they live on the other side of town, they might have to speed to get there, and the police chief wouldn't be happy with that. So does the clock start ticking at the beginning that the complaint was lodged? So you really only have 15 minutes to get there personally, or do you have 45 minutes from the time the 30 minutes is up?
You have 45 minutes from the time 30 minutes is up, is how it's read in the ordinance.
Is the city attorney comfortable with that interpretation?
I'm comfortable with that, yes.
It's the words, Councilmember Groh. So,
And again, the police department will have discretion in exercising this. So when you make comments that just because somebody doesn't call back within 30 minutes, it's automatically going to be a fine, that's not true. It has to be finally adjudicated. They have to go through the entire process and be found guilty before the fine. So it's not a citation. We're not going to, you failed to do this, you get a citation, you have to pay this amount. It has to go through an entire process, be adjudicated before it's a verified violation, which falls within this fee scheme.
It's interesting with the fines. When you talk to folks in other communities, they actually think the fines are very low for what they're getting in some of like the metropolitan areas. So when the state determined what the thresholds were going to be, they took into account how it was impacting communities across the state of Arizona with the fee structure. All right. With that being said, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this matter? Yeah, please just make your way to the podium, state your name for the record. And during public hearings, the time is limited to 5 minutes.
This should be really quick. I'm Nancy Campbell, and hello everybody, mayor and council. Quick question that nobody's addressed, and I, being the spouse of a board member for an HOA, are you guys should we carbon copy your rules that you're putting forth on the city through the HOA, or is this city ordinance kind of inclusive to the HOAs?
HOAs actually have more ability to regulate than the city council does. So your ability as an HOA is to do whatever you would like to do within your bylaws and CC&Rs, but you would still have to comply with local ordinances.
We are trying to carbon copy what you guys are doing so that it stays conclusive and everything stays the same and people can understand it better. And we'd also like to reach out to all of our residents to inform them about the new state law in regards to taxation, because I'm assuming even if it's in an HOA or not, it's still under the jurisdiction of Arizona, because it's just like they have to get their the tax license to do. Am I correct with this?
Yes.
But we would still contact the police department if we had a complaint within our HOA. They would have them on the contact list and everything would be the same.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Would anyone else like to address the city council on this matter?
Good evening, everyone. My name is George Sharma. I am from Desert Resort Properties. I've been in this business for 26 years doing the vacation rentals. And without experience, the trouble is coming from VRBO, Airbnb, those people who are doing this private practice from the homes. Majority of the people are sitting in California or other states, and they simply hook up a camera on their door thinking that they can watch what's going on. That's really not the truth. And I found out from a lot of people, because they do contact us to pick up brains. And I found out they do not have what he calls a TPT license. And I think we need to focus more on that, because these people are getting away with thousands of dollars of revenue that they're collecting, and they're not paying any taxes on it. So far we are concerned, like in the past, I think I want to make sure in the ordinance, we want to make sure those people who are like managing their properties through us, through the professional companies, they should not be asked to get a TPT license, because we collect the revenue on their behalf and we pay the Arizona Department of Revenue every month. So if I'm managing, say, 80 properties, so I'm collecting revenue for 80 people, and that goes every month to the Department of Revenue. So if we tell these people to get 80 licenses on their own, they're going to be a big mess, because we will be collecting the revenue. Then how do we pass it on to the state without getting these people involved? So that there should be a correction there, that those companies which are those homes or properties which are being managed by real estate companies, we should be like, we have license, and we should follow with that program that they don't need to get any license. I know in the past, in the previous ordinance when we made, we were registering these homes or condos with the city every year when we do a business license update. Same time we would update these homes as well. So I think same thing should be continued the way it should be, unless there's anything else you have any suggestions to make. I'll be glad to open to that.
Yeah, no, that is a good point. So we'll take a look at just initially, what my thought would be on that is that they would be required to use your TPT number for their advertisements, which would allow them to comply with state law. But we'll need to do some research on that, and we'll get back to the property manager group. That's of state law, so that's not.
No.
So we'll see how we can work that through for you.
First of all, those people who are managing through, like whose properties are being managed by us, they don't advertise at all. We advertise for them. So, and we do not go on VRBOs. We have own websites. People know we have repeat clientele. So, but those people, the people who are violating the issue is VRBO, Airbnb. They are advertising on their own, not us.
Yeah, no, point taken. We'll look into that, and I'll reach out to the property manager group. I don't think you're going to have to do anything different than what you're doing already, but I will verify that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Would anyone else like to address the city council on this matter? One last chance. We've been talking about short-term rentals for a long time. I just want to make sure everyone's voice is heard. All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Councilmember Dolan?
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes.
I move to introduce ordinance number 19-1226, amending Lake Havasu City Code Section 5.20, vacation rentals in its entirety.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Dolan and a second from Councilmember McCoy. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carried 6-1.
Thank you. All right, item 8.4 is approve sole source purchase for upgrade of the UV disinfection wiper system at the Mulberry Treatment Plant from DC Frost Associates, Inc. Mr. Saletibo.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mike Saletibo from Wastewater. We're here tonight to request funds that are already approved. We're just wanting to go over the $50,000 threshold with a single sole source vendor. So basically, this is just a picture of our commingling pond at Mulberry. It's a 1.5 million gallon effluent storage pond. Currently provides reclaimed water for the London Bridge Golf Course and plant water for various purposes. There are plans to include Cypress Park, as a future effluent water user. The UV is the final step in the treatment process, so essentially it's the most important step before we send the water out to the public for their protection. So basically, in-house wash down, landscaping in and around the plant, we reuse as much water as we can. Currently, the Mulberry Treatment Plant receives about 1.2 million gallons of raw influent a day, and our current usage is about 1.6. That shortfall is made up by our other treatment plants that we end up transferring over to the commingling pond. ADQs set these limits for MTP or Mulberry Treatment Plant's Aquifer Protection Permit for less than 23, most probable number for fecal coliform, and a single sample, which is the hardest one to obtain, is the 4 of 7. That means 4 of 7 of non-detect, meaning typically in a week we can't have any fecal coliforms. The wiper system is critical for the cleaning of the UV lamps, quartz tubes, because anytime there's any fouling on those quartz, then the light doesn't get a chance to emit and get the kill that we're looking for. It's kind of like bleach. It's a 99% kill, but essentially it's not really a kill. It's basically it stunts the bacteria's reproductive growth and all of their systems, and if they can't reproduce, they end up dying, so that's what it essentially does. The current wiper system, as you can see up there, they're stainless steel canisters in there. They're no longer in production. Stainless steel is costing more and more, and the costs have risen, quite a bit over the last few years, and the time that it takes to get them. And if we have one lamp down, it causes us worry because something might get by, and then we see that in our laboratory results. Okay, MTP has 2 channels, 6 banks each with 6 modules. Each have 6 lamps each, so essentially there's 212 of these. They're quite costly. When we originally put this system in 2012, we could get them for about $30 a piece. So now they're in the range of $300 to $400 a piece, and 4 to 6 weeks to get them. We utilize the low pressure amalgam lamps. They have the lowest electrical demand, available in UV lamps. So UV disinfection is the most effective and safe and environmental friendly way to disinfect, our effluent. So we're not trying to change it instead of using like chlorine gas or sodium hypochlorite. But it provides a broad spectrum protection against a wide range of pathogens and the chlorine resistant protozoa. So that's a tough one to kill. So every last drop counts. I'm open to any questions.
Thank you. Do any members of council have any questions? All right, this is
I have a question.
Oh yeah, Councilmember Dolan.
With the bulbs going from $32 to over $400, is there at some point where we would have to switch out to another system? Is this system just not as well supported? Why would there be such an increase?
It's not the bulbs it's the I can back up a little bit, and it's the stainless steel canister that you see on there. It's a wiper system, and we use an ActiClean gel in there that basically it has lime away and a couple of other things in there, and it keeps the quartz nice and clean, so so the light can emit. It has a range of about 2.3 inches in circumference around each one of those lamp sleeves. There's a lamp inside of there, is what we're trying to utilize for the kill.
Okay, appreciate it.
All right, any other questions? This is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor?
Vice Mayor Lane?
Motion?
Yes.
I move to approve the sole source purchase of UV wiper system for the Mulberry Treatment Plant exceeding $50,000 for fiscal year 2019-2020 from DC Frost Associates, Inc.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Lane and a second from Councilmember Grote. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. All right, item 9 is our current events. Are there any council committee reports? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 10, which is our final call to the public. Would anyone like to address the city council on any matter within the jurisdiction of our city? Seeing none, we'll close the call to the public. Item 11 is our future meetings. Our next meeting is on Tuesday, November 26th, 2019 at 6 p.m. It's a regular meeting. And then on Tuesday, December 10th, 2019 at 6 p.m. is a regular meeting. Are there any future discussion items? No? All right. Before we adjourn, remember to be kind. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second? Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. We are adjourned. Thanks for being here.